welcome to everyone who's joining us this afternoon. My name is Nicole Ariza. We are very happy that you could join us for this informative presentation on loving food that loves you back with Katz. On behalf of the Smilow Wellness Workshop Committee, we welcome you to today's program. A little bit of background, the Smilow Wellness Workshops are offered to patients, families, volunteers, and healthcare staff with the mission of empowering individuals to take control of their own health and wellness. Our program features free interactive workshops, which are now on Zoom, that reaffirm the importance of caring for the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. They're designed to complement traditional lectures and health talks, and each workshop focuses on a different component of wellness. These events are made possible through the funding from the Yale New Haven Health Auxiliary, and we thank them immensely for their support of these workshops. So the committee who plans and conducts the Smilow Wellness Workshops consists of Gisela Box-Leitner, Bud Wassell, Denise Romano, Beverly Block, and myself. I also want to recognize and thank our audiovisual colleagues who help us immensely with the technology behind the scenes to make sure that this all works. Please let us know after today's presentation if you have any suggestions for future topics, and please also remember to complete the quick evaluation that will come up at the end of the Zoom when you close your screen, as we value your feedback and would like to take that into consideration for future programs. Housekeeping for today, please use the Q&A feature if you have any questions during the Zoom, and I will be moderating and we'll try and share some of the questions with Catherine as we're going along, and we'll also have some time at the end for Q&A. We are recording today's presentation and it will be available within a week or so on the Yale Cancer Center website for further viewing. So with that said, I would now like to introduce our speaker, Katz. Catherine is a scientist, foodie, chef, author, and co-creator of various nationally recognized nutrition initiatives, including Diet ID, Nutrition Detectives, her website, Cuisinicity. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Catherine. I love that word. And the True Health Initiative. Raised on a French Mediterranean diet, she has a passion for great food and great health, which you're going to see here in the next hour. Catherine and her husband, Dr. David Katz, a world-renowned nutrition expert, have raised 5 healthy children by loving food that loves them back. And she is devoted to helping others live the same way. And we're grateful for that because we're all going to benefit in this next hour or so. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Catherine, and maybe you can tell us a little bit first about your philosophy of loving food that loves you back, and then we'll get into the cooking in your kitchen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is delightful. And I hope during this hour, you feel like you're in my kitchen. You are my guests. And please interrupt me anytime. It should feel like you're with me here in this kitchen. So, as Nicole said, Cuisinicity is, I created it many years ago without even realizing it when I fell in love with my husband. He, at the time, was doing his preventive medicine residency at Yale, and I was a postdoc in neuroscience. And when we met, he was just as passionate about health as he is today. And I was just as passionate about French foodiness and, you know, the food should be delicious and so on. Of course, it created a little bit of a tension between the two of us. And as we fell in love and raised our children, it was important that nutritious and delicious come together, because nutritious and delicious should not be a compromise of one another. And you should love the food that loves you back in return. So that's the philosophy. And he is nutritious, I'm delicious. He's theory, I'm practice. I'm putting all over those years, I have put his knowledge on the table. And over the years, I've also used my scientific mind to really just vary one ingredient at a time, the way you would in an experiment in a lab. But here in my lively kitchen filled with children and dogs, really making sure that as I would vary one ingredient at a time, trying to push nutrition, I would look at my dependent variable, which would be the deliciousness, the texture, the beauty of it, because food is so much more than just nutrition. It also should fill your soul. So today I am very excited to share with you some recipes that I love, that I hope you will love, and that I know will love you back. And by the same token, love our planet back and the wellness of our fellow species. I try to do that as much as I can. Over the years, I've done that more and more. And you'll see in my website, it's becoming more and more vegan, but not solely vegan. And again, I urge every one of you to not make perfection the enemy of good. You should love the food that loves you back. So it's mostly plant-based, but it doesn't have to be. So all of my recipes have a component of what makes a healthy diet always in them. Lots of veggies, lots of fruit, whole grains, nuts and seeds, legumes and beans, and seeds. And today, my first recipe really takes them all in, and it's my Mediterranean couscous salad. And of course, Mediterranean, I was born in Algeria when it was a French colony, and was raised in the south of France, so on either side of the Mediterranean. So I learned everything about cooking from my mom and aunt, and Mediterranean cooking is really in my soul. And I should know before I start that what is beautiful about what it makes a healthy diet healthy is that you determine, you are the boss. You can make this happen in any culture, any cuisine, to just bring out all these veggies, fruit, whole grains, nuts and seeds, legumes, beans, and you can do that for any culture, any cuisine you prefer. So I'm going to start with my Mediterranean couscous salad. One of the many reasons why I love it, besides the nutrition and the deliciousness, is how quick it comes together. You don't even need to boil water. And I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to make a couscous salad, and I am not going to actually cook the couscous. No worries, the couscous will be just perfectly cooked at the end, because it will have soaked the marinade that I'm going to show you in the time that it takes me to cut my vegetables. So you're going to see it from beginning to end, and you can time me. No cooking involved, and the couscous will be, you'll see, each grain is just delightful, not mushy. If you boil it, it tends to be mushy, none of that. And we're going to start. So I like to start with whole wheat couscous. Now, whole wheat couscous, the reason why I like whole wheat, whole grain, is because of the fiber that it contains. Fiber is so good for you, so good for the gut, heart health, so many things. And I prefer to use whole wheat couscous, but if you can't find whole wheat couscous, use regular couscous, just not the pearl couscous, just a plain couscous. And again, don't make perfection the enemy of good. There's going to be plenty of wonderful ingredients in there that will make it very nutritious. So 1 cup, and I'm always amazed how 1 cup of dry couscous is going to make this huge salad. So it's also very cheap to make. So let me start. 1 cup of dry couscous, haven't cooked it.
Does it expand, Catherine? Does it expand like pasta does? You know, couscous, is that what's happening here? Is it's going to expand a little bit?
You're going to see it. So now you see it, it's dry.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm going to put the extra virgin olive oil, fresh orange juice, fresh juice of an orange, fresh juice of a lemon, some spices, and I'm going to let it for 10 minutes. I'm going to leave it in here. By the time I'm done cutting my vegetables, you're going to see how it will fill this whole bowl, and I'm going to present it in a beautiful way. So let me show you the marinade. The difficulty of this marinade. 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Just see. And I like to be precise because it's important if you want to recreate my recipes, replicate as you would in the scientific lab. You want to make sure that everything the nutrition is exactly correct. I'm not adding this and adding that. You can actually look at the nutrition by just plugging in those ingredients in a software. But you know, I know how to cook. I know my recipes. I could do it blindfolded. But if you need the exact recipe at proportions, you can go on cuisinicity.com and all my recipes are there for free. So half a cup of olive oil. Then I am going to just press juice of one orange. And you see how fancy my stuff is here. You know, I just presented this very salad in Mexico just last week. And for the life of me, I just couldn't find a press thing. And so I had to do it by hand. So again, you don't have to have fancy stuff to make this work, but a nice, juicy, fresh orange. It ends up being a half a cup. If some oranges are not juicy, you use a little bit more, but I bet you this one will be. Just make sure that all that juice goes in. The juice of one lemon. Already the smell is lovely. And again, please do not hesitate to ask me questions, interrupt. You can never interrupt me too much because that's what I do in my kitchen. I cook and I talk and everybody interrupts.
It's looking great already, and I wish we could all smell it, because that's a feature that Zoom needs to build into their technology, is the smell feature, so that we could smell what's going on in your kitchen.
You will see, and usually I put fresh basil, but today I couldn't find fresh basil, so I'm gonna put fresh mint, and I'll talk about that. It smells so wonderful. It's just lovely. So I'm gonna do the other half of the lemon. And again, you see I'm putting it in the olive oil. Okay. Oh my goodness, it's so quiet. I am not used to cooking in such a quiet environment.
Well, I can keep throwing questions at you. You know, it's, I was going to ask, because you mentioned extra virgin olive oil, and that's important, right? The difference. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between why you use extra virgin olive oil and not just olive oil or regular vegetable oil?
Oh no, regular vegetable oil is not the same. There is the nutritional value of olives, and cold pressed olives has been shown, and there's a lot of research out there and evidence about the benefits of the Mediterranean diet, of which olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, is very much part. And it is important that you don't have it the processed kind, because then you lose all the nutrients. It is high in monounsaturated fat, not the saturated fat that is not good for you. It is anti-inflammatory. It is good for your arteries. My husband could go on and on about this, and if you want to know, you probably should.
Sure.
But I know that he thinks highly of it, and of course, that is a staple in our kitchen.
Great.
So then another thing that I love to put is turmeric. Turmeric, not only for its beauty, I mean, it will give it a beautiful, just flamboyant color of orange, but it also has nutritional benefits, anti-inflammatory, excellent also for your health, and some salt. I think it's just a quarter teaspoon salt. Again, not very high in sodium, which is important. And I should mention that the sodium that is the most dangerous is not so much the salt that you add to your food, as much as what is in processed food, where the sodium is hiding without you knowing it's there, even in sweet things like chocolate sauce and cereal. There is added sodium. That's where, if you have too much processed food, it's going to come back and bite you.
And how much turmeric? So we do have a couple questions. How much turmeric did you say you used there?
I think it's about a half a teaspoon, but what is wonderful about this spice is that although it's extremely wonderful as a nutrient, it is not that flavorful. I'm not using it for its flavor. So you can't really go wrong. So I think you can even go with 1 teaspoon. I
Okay.
think the recipe says half a teaspoon, but already that's it. That's the difficulty of this recipe. And oh, it already smells lovely. But here is the marinade. Now, watch what I'm going to do. I'm now going to pour this in the dry couscous. Again, dry, not cooked. I'm
Okay.
mixing twice.
And the couscous, so there's 2 questions about the couscous.
Yeah.
First, is couscous a pasta or is it a grain? And then the follow-up question is, if someone is gluten-free, could they use something else? Is there a substitute?
Yes. Excellent question. It's a whole grain, and I guess pasta is a whole grain. If you use, what is pasta? What is whole grain? They're both whole grains. It is not gluten-free, and if you want to make it gluten-free, I recommend that you use quinoa. But quinoa will not work this way. You'll have to pre-cook it, which is not a big deal. It's very easy to make. You'll have to pre-cook it and then do everything that I'm showing you here, because it will stay dry and it just will not be edible in the way that I'm making it. You can also use bulgur wheat when it's very fine, but that too has gluten.
Okay.
If your issue is gluten and you're sensitive to gluten, use quinoa, but pre-cook it.
Quinoa, but pre-cook it if you need to be gluten-free. Okay, got it.
Right now, it's not ready at all. You can still see there's a liquid. It's not ready. Not to worry. I'm going to put it aside. And you can even tell me the time it's going to take me to cut up my vegetables. It's going to be ready.
Okay. And one last question about the marinade. Could you use saffron instead of turmeric?
Thinking my way. I love saffron. Now, saffron is very, very flavorful. So it will give it a different nationality, even, this beautiful recipe. And in fact, when I presented this last week in Mexico, I emphasized that I love to put cilantro as opposed to basil or fresh mint. And I love to use grilled corn that I just, cut the kernels off and put it in there. And it gives it that wonderful Southwestern Mexican feel. So if you were to use saffron, it would be a little bit more of a Middle Eastern Spanish, absolutely lovely. And so that's another thing I absolutely love about this recipe, is that it's very forgiving, or it's very, shall I say, engaging. You can use, basically, once you know this little rule about the couscous absorbing this beautiful marinade and just becoming perfectly cooked, not even al dente, just perfect, but each grain separate and not mushy, then you can use, the sky is the limit with what ingredients, vegetables you want to put in there.
Okay.
So, saffron, back to saffron, I think that's a lovely idea. So today, I'm going to make peppers, bell peppers. I love them. They're beautiful. Usually I find a yellow one. I couldn't find one today. So I'm going to do green, red, orange, and I'm just going to cut them. And now this is a great time to start asking me questions. Because I'm going to be cutting.
Yes. So I think, so you answered the other question was about any other grains that you could use this marinade and this no strategy cook, this no cook strategy. So really the couscous is the only one that is no cook, correct?
Well, bulgur wheat as well.
Oh, okay, bulgur wheat, okay.
Coarseness of bulgur wheat. So if you use the finer bulgur wheat, it'll work absolutely beautifully as well.
Okay.
Anything else? No, I think that's it. Bulgur wheat and couscous.
And then if you were going to cook other grains, though, like you were saying, if you were going to do quinoa to cook it first, could you do this with other grains like farro or?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, my goodness, it's like you and I planned this. Yes, farro would be beautiful. Let's see, barley would be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not going to absorb as much, but the marinade will just marry with all the other beautiful vegetables. You may want to add more vegetables even then, because it doesn't need a lot of the marinade the dressing will be there left to coat the remaining
Okay.
vegetables. So yeah, you can use many different things.
And you have a beautiful assortment of the different colored bell peppers, but based on what you said before, could you use different flavored peppers like a poblano pepper to add some smoke or something like that to change the flavor profile?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, this is what I love about cooking. And if I have time, I'll tell you another little trick that I have about something else that I may not be able to show you, but discuss for you. I love when you love a recipe, but it opens up so many options for you. So you're not bored and you don't feel, oh my God, how much should I put? No, you know about this little rule, you follow this, and then you just let your creativity and your whatever you have in your refrigerator that works. But again, this is just wonderful in the summer when you don't feel like cooking at all and you want something fresh. So by the way, I'm going to start putting this on top, but I'm not touching, I'm not stirring or anything. I'm just going to put it on top.
Okay.
More questions.
So this is really like a foundation recipe because it can be, the idea and the method, but like you just said, using up what's in your refrigerator, right? Depending on the seasons, it could vary.
Absolutely. And like I said, my goodness, when I make fresh corn and I grill it, I simply grill it on a grill pan like this. And later I'll talk to you a little bit more about grill pans. This is cheap. You get it. I've had this for many, many years. What is important here is the ridges. The ridges are important because when you heat it up on the stove and you make sure that it's really nice and hot, it will repel whatever is on there. So one, it will not stick, but more importantly, you won't get that vapor and the steam that you would get when you are cooking a vegetable. It gives it those stripes, it gives it that smokiness, and it's delightful. So one of the things that I do is I use a fresh corn that I put on there, very high heat.
Okay.
And only at the end, as they get nice and those little grill marks, I have one of those little just a little jar, that plastic that I get at the supermarket. It's like a ketchup thing, right?
Sure.
I put extra virgin olive oil there. What this does is it allows you to very sparingly drizzle olive oil so that you don't need very much, and you don't need very much when you're grilling vegetables. And then I just, as it's finishing up grilling, it is delicious. So that's one of the things that I love to put. It changes the profile, the flavor profile of this recipe with just this little hint. That and the cilantro, which is just beautiful. Today it'll be a little bit more Greek because of the mint, fresh mint. And if you want, again, I'm mostly plant-based, but again, if you like a little feta cheese, add a little feta cheese. That would be lovely. Again, in moderation is good because cheese has a lot of saturated fat. But as a Frenchie, I love cheese, and I don't like vegan cheese because it doesn't taste like anything. But it's important to use a flavorful cheese, and you don't need very much of it. It will do its job without being too much. So a little feta cheese, absolutely. And then you have this little mint, and you got yourself a Greek kind of a couscous salad.
Sounds delicious. And when you originally added the couscous and the marinade, did you stir it then, or did you really just kind of drop it into the?
Yes, once at the beginning. If you look at the recording again, I stir it once and then leave it alone.
Okay.
Just once. I also presented this a few years ago in Sicily, Italy. My husband and I were leading this culinary tour, and I was a little intimidated. I said, I am from the Mediterranean, but teaching Italians how to cook Mediterranean, that was a little intimidating. They loved it. And ever since then, I just said, what is not to love? And again, I'd love to have a yellow pepper, but I don't have one.
Oh, the salad is gonna look like a rainbow.
It will. It is. It's so appetizing. You'll see. And again, I'm not stirring yet. Don't want to stir. I will stir in a few minutes and it'll be done in a few minutes.
Sure.
Notice I talked about the ingredients that are the crucial for a healthy diet. So I talked about vegetables, lots of vegetables. We got vegetables. We're going to have tomatoes. We got fruit, lemon and orange. We're going to have chickpeas, beautiful for protein, plant-based protein. We're going to have seeds. I like to use sunflower seeds, but I've also used pumpkin seeds. You can use nuts if you want. And of course, a whole grain couscous. So it is a really complete meal. And it's just a lovely thing to have. That's what we're going to have for dinner tonight. Okay. So some tomatoes. I think I'm going to put 2 tomatoes. I sometimes put marinated artichoke hearts.
How about olives? Someone's asking about olives. Would you ever put olives?
Olives. My goodness, yes, olives. I love Kalamata olives would be lovely in that. And they're very good for you.
And then would you change the amount of salt, Catherine? If you were adding olives, would you adjust the salt or no?
You are the best. I was just going to say yes, but if you use olives, be careful about the salt. Now, mind you, this is very little salt that I put in there, and I may correct it, quote unquote, at the end to see if it needs a little bit more. But yes, definitely with the olives, don't oversalt at the beginning, and you may not need any more than it. I make a beautiful tagine with green olives, and I don't need any added salt because the olives are plenty salty.
And capers are the same way, right? If you add capers, that gives some saltiness.
Absolutely. Okay. So you just have to be careful and aware, but it should taste good. And again, you need to love the food, and the salt, you have to be careful, but the salt where you can do the best for your own health is to stay away from processed food, because this is where the salt is in incredible amounts. I mean, it's insane how much salt there is in things when you look at it. Okay, so I got this, I got that, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so now I'm going to put my chickpeas. Let me move this out of the way so it's not ugly. So chickpeas, you can put 1 can or you can put 2 cans. Again, how nice it is that it's not expensive, because a can of chickpeas is not very expensive, and you can, feed a hungry family with adding a few more vegetables or more of the beans. I like to use chickpeas, but again, you can use black beans. That would be a little bit of a Mexican feel. You can use, I guess you could use also kidney beans or fava beans, but I love chickpeas in here. Okay, so the moment of truth. I am going to start mixing. And it's already, I think you're going to see, and I'm going to taste it for you. I wish you could taste it.
Yeah.
It is so beautiful. So as you said, oh, I forgot. I forgot my mint and my, so I mixed it, and I will show you. You can't tell yet.
Wow.
It is twice the size, and the grains are cooked, but let me give it a couple more minutes, the time that it'll take me to cut some fresh mint. One thing I learned relatively recently, I've always loved to work with herbs, fresh herbs, but I didn't realize that fresh herbs are like leafy greens. They are leafy greens, when you eat it, it's good for you. So are fresh herbs. They have all the same nutrient and nutritional quality as a leafy green. They are leafy greens. So an added bonus to their beauty. The smell is just beautiful. Beautiful. And then I sprinkle some sunflower seeds, unsalted.
Okay.
And I will serve it at the end. I will put more sunflower seeds on top. Okay, I'm going to show you how I'm going to present it. Just do a little cut. You know what? Fortunately, I just cut myself a little bit, so I have to be careful.
What are your thoughts on adding minced garlic?
Not in this.
Okay.
No, it'll overpower and it's unnecessary. I love garlic, don't get me wrong, but it's necessary here. So here I am going to present it on this beautiful platter with some mixed greens, mesclun and arugula and all that. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil on it so it's not dry. Very little, and it looks like a lot, but in fact it ends up being about a teaspoon that I just put on there. This is a wonderful little tool to control how much you put, and you don't need very much. It will give it that beautiful flavor. And a little balsamic vinegar. That's it. And now I'm going to put and I'm going to taste it for you. You'll see, but look at this beautiful thing.
Oh, wow. It did grow to be so much. It looks
so much. Every grain is cooked. People are amazed because it didn't take very long, right? Okay, I'm going to show you. I think you will be able to better feel it. It's nothing like when I started, which was dry. It is now. Let me just do this. Let me just. It's delicious. It's cooked. It's ready. So then put a little bit of lemon.
Looks delicious already.
Thank you. Thank you. And there you have it. Look at this.
Wow. Amazing.
I love this recipe. You know what? Let me put a little Band-Aid on my my finger. I'm such a klutz. I'll be right back.
Of course.
Got questions?
We can definitely come up with some good questions.
Think about questions. Tell me.
I think that, so one question that comes to mind, because you put this in, this is a beautiful presentation that would be gorgeous on a table, but also what about storing this recipe? You know, let's say you're a single person or you're a couple, just two people. How can you, this is a very, makes a lot of volume. So how does it keep like the next day if you want to bring it to work for lunch or something the next day? How does it keep?
That's again a beautiful question. This salad keeps, I think, at least for 5 days. I don't understand it. It doesn't, I think it's because I don't cook it. It never gets mushy. It still is fresh. In fact, it's even more flavorful the next day and the next day.
Oh, sure.
I think, and I haven't tried it, but I think you could probably even freeze it and do it in separate little
okay.
I love to serve this as a tapas. Like I'll show you. With little cutie little containers like that. And
sure.
And so on the table, and you put a little spoon in there, and people just take one and have it. It's delicious. It's surprising and very, very nutritious.
Sure. Can you hold up the platter again to the camera so that everyone can see the beautiful? Yes, thank you.
See it?
Yep, beautiful.
And I think you can tell that the grains are beautifully cooked. Nothing dry about this. Nothing.
And how many sunflower seeds? You said you put some sunflower seeds in, and then again over the top. Roughly about how much?
I don't remember because it's in the recipe, and the only reason why I measure it again is so that you can replicate it and be sure that you have the exact ingredients nutritionally that I say you have. But you can just be very, I would say, a tablespoon.
Okay.
Yeah, tablespoon. Okay. Do you want me to move on to the next recipe I'd like to share with you guys?
Okay, we are ready. I have a couple other questions, but as you get started, I'll come back.
Good. So ask me while I'm setting up.
I am putting the website. So we have a couple questions about the website, where to get the recipes. So I am putting that into the chat so that people can go to your cuisinicity.com.
And let me tell you why I call it cuisinicity. Cuisine in French means kitchen, but it also means in English cuisine, you know, the different food preparations. Cuisine is gourmet cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing really gourmet about what I do. I don't want it to be gourmet. I want it to be cuisine and simplicity. And by simplicity, I mean simplicity in getting it together, you know, with a lot of kids around, you know, it has to be easy. It has to be simple, and also in terms of the ingredients, simplicity of the ingredients, authenticity of the ingredients, always wholesome ingredients, and a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, etc., etc. So cuisine and simplicity, cuisine and authenticity, it's cuisine. When you won't forget.
And to that end, you said that you could use any bean that you want, right? You use garbanzo beans, but you could use any bean that you have in your pantry or that you like in this combination.
Absolutely. Now, so just rinse them well, because
Okay,
it's gloopy, and they have some sodium. Some of them don't have sodium, but even if there's one that's regular sodium, just rinse it well and make sure that you take out the gurk that's on there. And of course, you have to use cooked beans. If you're making it yourself, you have to boil them and all that. But I use canned. Again, busy mom of 5. I didn't have time to.
Okay. And last question, I think last question on the first recipe is, where do folks shop for the whole wheat couscous? Where will they find that?
You know, that's a good question too. The whole wheat couscous I find at the health food store.
Okay.
With Amazon and all that, you can easily find it online. This one is Smilow Farms. I also love Bob's Red Mills. You won't usually find whole wheat couscous in a regular supermarket. So again, if that's what's stopping you from making this recipe, don't. Just get regular couscous. You'll find it anywhere. Just not the pearl couscous that's really big. It'll never work with that.
Okay, so, thank you.
Tell me when you're ready for my next recipe.
Go for it.
Okay, so my next recipe is almost embarrassing. As easy as this was, this is even easier. It's a spinach dip. And how ridiculous is that, right? A spinach dip. But I love this spinach dip because, as you can imagine, I made it very nutritious. But I love it because it also opens up opportunities for you to snack on vegetables or whole grain crackers. And this keeps for a week in your refrigerator. And it is an opportunity to just, you know, if you don't feel like munching on carrots raw or peppers raw, you're going to want to dip your vegetables in this. It is so yummy. It tastes like it's decadent, like it's sour cream, but it isn't. And you'll see. And it's filled with spinach. So first thing, I'm going to use 3 cups loosely, not so loosely, packed baby spinach, washed, rinse, and you put it in there in a food processor. And you guys are going to have to count with me, because the one thing that you must know for this recipe is not to make mush out of this. You don't want a pesto, because if you make a pesto, the whole thing is going to be green, juicy, not very appealing. That's not what you want. You want really a dip that has some nice spinach in there, but not too mushy. So I'm going to count to 5. Maybe too much, maybe not. Let's see. Let me start. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. That's it. No more, because you'll see it's still dry. See, it's not mushy. You don't see.
Okay.
You see that? Okay.
Yes, we can see.
That's it. And you know, that's so beautiful with spinach. You put a ton, so your body knows there's a ton in there. But in fact, it doesn't come to very much. It's just, oh, there's one that didn't make it. Not worth doing again, because it's going to get liquidy and disgusting. I don't want that. So this is all, like I said, almost embarrassing to call this a recipe. But it's that good, and it's that wonderful to have on hand in your refrigerator. So then I like to use unsweetened plain almond yogurt or cashew yogurt. You can use regular Greek yogurt if you have dairy.
Plain though, right? It would be plain, not flavored.
Plain, and I like fat free. Doesn't need, if you're gonna have the regular yogurt, you don't need the saturated fat. Fat free, you will not be deprived. It will be plenty rich. So fat free Greek yogurt, or in my case, I like the almond, plain, or the cashew. Beautiful. So no, whoops, I already measured it here. 1 cup.
And that spinach, if someone didn't have a food processor at home, could you finely chop with a knife? Just, you know, old time, like just
You
regular.
Could. Yeah, you could.
Rough chop.
There's no problem. You could. You probably won't get it this fine. And if anything, it'll have slightly different texture, but it'll still be delicious. And absolutely, you don't need a food processor. Then about a half a teaspoon onion powder. I didn't say onion salt, I said onion powder. Same of garlic powder. And about a quarter teaspoon salt.
Did you say quarter teaspoon?
Yeah. Salt. Okay. And then a little fresh pepper. It's embarrassing because this is done, but it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, so you just mix it nicely.
I love what you said before, as you were starting to prepare it, about having something in the refrigerator to snack on, because we often get questions, right, about people who come home from work or running errands and they're hungry before dinner. And rather than, you know, go to snacky type things that may not be as good for us, to have something like this in the refrigerator and have veggies and dip as an appetizer as you make dinner.
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting is I had written a blog about the perfect ratio for a snack.
Okay.
High nutrient, low calories.
Yes.
Highly nutritional, but very low calories. I mean, the spinach is very little. There's some calorie in the yogurt, and that's it. And high nutrient, low calorie is a wonderful thing to munch on. So I just you put carrots.
Yeah, what are your favorite veggies to dip into this dip?
I love Boston lettuce.
Okay.
I love celery, peppers, carrots. The sky is the limit. And you can have it with crackers. Now you have to be careful with crackers. I like these Mary's Gone crackers.
Okay.
They take some getting used to. The first time I tasted it, I said, what is this? I actually love it. I love it now. And I met the woman who invented these, which she was like, I treated her like she was a rock star. She thought, who are you?
Are they a whole grain cracker? Does that make the texture different? So are they whole grain, or are they made from nuts and seeds? What's in them?
Exactly. Brown rice, quinoa, flax seeds, sesame seeds, tamari, which is water, soybean, salt, and vinegar, sea salt. Boom. It's unbelievable. It's all whole. You can recognize every one of those ingredients. They have some nice fiber, and you know they're delicious, but you won't overeat them. And so with this, boom. So good. So a question. Oh, and I should mention. So this is wonderful on the buffet table, because you know people dip, you know, or you know for what do you call it? When there is a baseball game or
football. Oh, sure, tailgate party.
Yeah, right. And so people, you know, they want to munch on something, and this is really good for them, and they don't know. You don't have to tell them it's healthy. Of course, in my house they know. You don't have to tell them. And then I love to serve this over. I make this beautiful walnut crusted salmon. Oh my God! And that another ridiculous recipe because it's wild salmon, crushed walnuts, salt and pepper. In the oven it goes.
Wow. That's
it. And then I like to serve this on it. And that's also very elegant. You can imagine also the buffet table, you cut the salmon with the walnut crusted in little squares and you serve this as a dip.
Wow.
So good.
Must be beautiful. Yes. Looks delicious.
Okay, so now I'm going to move on to dessert. And I want to talk about dessert and my crème au chocolat, which I absolutely love. But let me kind of get this a little organized.
Yeah, as you're doing that, can you also just remind us of the names of those two recipes that you did so far on the website? If people are going to look for the recipe, what should they be looking for?
Yeah, this is going to be called the Mediterranean couscous salad.
Okay, Mediterranean couscous salad was number one.
This is called, I think, simply spinach dip. But if you do spinach dip, or it'll find it for you.
Okay.
Spinach dip. I have a whole section on simply this, simply that, because it was almost embarrassed to call them recipes. I mean, come on, that's a recipe. But that's the beauty of it. Cooking should not be difficult. It should be, if it doesn't need to be difficult, let the wholesome ingredients speak for themselves. Okay, so this. My crème au chocolat. So, I don't want you to be disgusted with salt and stuff like that. I have a thing about not mixing sweet and salt. It's a French thing. So remove this. So the crème au chocolat, typically, for it to be delicious and decadent and rich as it should be, has chocolate, granted, cream, sugar, and eggs. I kept the chocolate. I got rid of the cream, the eggs, and the sugar.
Okay.
So how did I do that? I'm going to show you. And this is another one of those recipes that has been, I've shared it in many places where we've served it for hundreds of people. And I'll show you how I present it. And I'm almost reluctant to tell them what's in it before they taste it, because they love it. And then I tell them what's in it and they say, what? But you don't know those ingredients are there. So bear with me, trust me. This is one of my most popular recipes.
Sure. We're with you. We're along for the ride.
So first thing you expect is dark chocolate. I like to use 70% cocoa because it means there's less sugar than 60%. And you certainly don't want to use milk chocolate. So 70% cocoa is good. And that is where the sugar comes from. The added sugar is inherent to this chocolate bar. So although I say I add no sugar, you will see I add no sugar. But there is sugar in this chocolate. You cannot do it with unsweetened chocolate. Unsweetened chocolate is too chalky, lacks a certain fatness that is necessary for this. And you would have to use that many more medjool dates, which is how I sweeten this. And then it's going to taste like medjool dates and chocolate. I want this to taste like a crème au chocolat, a beautiful chocolate mousse. So I melted 8 ounces in my microwave, about a minute on high, maybe a little bit more.
And 8 ounces is what, 2 bars? Because is each of those bars 3.5 or 4 ounces? Okay.
Yeah, the Ghirardelli, they're very flat, and each of those is 4 ounces. So use 2.
Okay. So that one that you're using there, you said, is a Ghirardelli, 72%, and so that's a good target.
Yeah, I like the Ghirardelli. Now, if you want to make it completely vegan, you have to use vegan chocolate, but I never push it that far. Okay. Then you have to know me to know that tofu has never been my friend. In terms of nutrition, absolutely very good nutritionally. But I did not like tofu. I didn't like its consistency. I didn't like its blandness. It's, just don't even talk to me about tofu. I don't remember how I decided to put it in there, perhaps because it is so bland and because it would give it a certain creaminess. In any case, tofu with the water that it comes in, I think it's about 12 ounces, but you're going to hear plop. It doesn't appeal, but trust me, plop. Then I'm going to use beautiful medjool dates. Medjool dates you could use regular dates, but probably regular dates you're going to have to use more. I use 5 medjool dates, so you probably use 8 with non-medjool. But anyway, take out the pit, and if they're very fresh like this, you can just put them in there. They're mushy enough that they're going to disappear. You won't know they're there. But if they're a little dry like they were, I did this also in Mexico last week, you soak them in a little bit of water and just for a few minutes, and they get, you just don't, you want creamy. You want creamy, you want chocolate to be predominant, you want silkiness. You don't want to taste the tofu, you don't want to taste the medjool dates, which you won't, and you don't want to taste the last ingredients that I'm going to tell you about. Okay. So
and you said, I'm sorry, can we go back to the tofu? So lots of questions about the tofu. Was that silken tofu or what was the type of tofu that you're using? Okay.
Okay, again, remember perfection, enemy of good. It's normally silken tofu.
Okay.
But I couldn't find it. So and I've tried this before. It's okay to have the extra firm.
Okay.
It's okay. So I prefer silken tofu, but the extra firm will do just fine. You'll see. My last, don't forget to take the pit out and throw this in there. Then I put a little coconut milk. Now, coconut is one of those, fads. People say, oh, coconut is so healthy for you. No, not necessarily. It's not bad for you, but it's not that good for you. Here, this was where the nutrition and delicious was just, I think I needed it for the creaminess that it imparted and the richness that it imparted, but not enough for you to taste it. I don't like to taste coconut in something that's not supposed to be coconut. So,
okay.
And it's coconut milk, not cream.
Okay.
The whole thing, you saw that at the beginning, it has that gloopy thing on top. You want the gloopy and the water that.
And this one is not the low fat. I know there are different varieties of coconut milk. There's light coconut milk. So was that just the regular?
You could use light coconut milk, but what it means is it's just diluted. And I don't think it needs to be diluted. It's fine like this. And when you consider that this is going to be a crème au chocolat, a decadent normally dessert, it is just unbelievable that the health, the nutrition that is there. And I'm saving the last one, for the best one for last, because I love this recipe so much. I now have it in UMass, University of Massachusetts in Amherst dining. They've won #1 5 years in a row in the country for their dining experience, Yale dining, because I want to have young kids love the food that love them back. A good chocolate pudding, they don't know if they will have that. And I know it's filling them, and you'll see with what? With protein, and filling them on fewer calories because it makes you feel fuller.
Yes.
So my last ingredient, I love lentils. These are black lentils. You can use regular lentils. I like to use them canned, again, for ease, but you can just cook some lentils. Make sure they're not al dente because you want them mushy and disappearing in there. I call lentils humble because they just do their thing. They impart their nutrition. They impart their darkness, which you want here. They impart their creaminess, and you do not know they're there. They don't want you to know they're there. Lentils.
Wow. And going back, the coconut milk, that can that you used was how many ounces? Because that was a relatively small compared to the size of the lentils.
6 ounces at 5.46 fluid ounces.
Okay.
If you don't find it, measure it. Those are kind of hard to find now. I don't know why. Just get a bigger one and measure it.
Okay.
Okay. So that's it. But watch.
You said on the lentils that was half a cup, Catherine?
Wait, let me mix it a little bit more.
Okay.
You have to do that a few times so that it'll be until it's silky, silky smooth. This, my food processor is getting to be old, and so it's not as fast. When I used this in a professional kitchen, it was like, it was immediate. So I think I need to change my blender, but you get the idea. Let me make sure that I get it smooth like I should. Here we go.
Sure. I'm typing away and sharing in the chat. We have a couple of people asking again for the website. So I'm putting that in the chat and sending it so that everyone will have it.
Not yet, not yet. You don't want any, in French you call them grumeaux, any lumps or anything like that. Ah, I wish, but we're still good on time. So you can ask me questions, except I make noise. So sorry about that. Just a second.
That's okay.
Wow. It's not yet, but one more time. And again, you notice I did, the reason why I like silken tofu is that it's a little less thick with silken tofu. But again, I couldn't find it, so.
And remind us how much on the lentils when you put, was that a half a cup on the lentils?
Half a cup, yes. Make sure you rinse them well. Again, you don't want to taste anything that is in that can. Just rinse them well. You don't want them any salt that there is in there. You don't want to taste it. Very bland. If you cook them, that's even easier. But half a cup. And again, I prefer black lentils, but brown lentils are fine too. So, oh my God. So it should be a little bit more mixed, but I won't bore you. I love to serve it in like a martini glass, champagne fruit, or just a little cutie. So what I do here, and I'm just going to quickly, because I don't want to taste it. I love to use it also as a ganache, you know, on a chocolate, on a cake, as instead of frosting.
So would you normally refrigerate it first? Would you make it ahead and then refrigerate? What do you recommend for the flavors to meld?
This is just like that, but I recommend making it in the morning and putting it in the refrigerator. Don't put anything on top yet. Just put it in the refrigerator in individual little cups. Cover it with a plastic wrap, and by the afternoon, evening, it has more of a mousse consistency, and the top is a little bit. It won't. You can put a raspberry or a beautiful strawberry that it as a fan, or some little nuts, and you serve it like that. It really, I mean, it's unbelievable. This is where I wish you could taste it.
Yeah. Oh, I wish we could too. Now, so on the website, again, the title of this, is this pot de crème on the
yes, you know, and the reason why I call it pot de crème is when I first started creating this, I wanted to recreate a pot de crème of my childhood, which normally you do this and you put it in the oven and you eat it hot. And it's delicious and you can still do that. Okay. But when I once had to present it was in Texas, and we had to serve 700 people. We said, how are we going to make it beautiful and cook it and bake it? We thought, listen, it's vegan. It doesn't need to be cooked. You can eat it, quote unquote, raw.
Sure.
And you don't need to. So in fact, it is a crème au chocolat or a mousse au chocolat. But by then I had written the recipe, and I said, you know, I say all this on my blog. I say, you know, I used to bake them, but you don't need to. Boom, boom, boom. So I think it's called crème au chocolat. But if you say chocolat, you'll see a bunch of things in there, and you'll find it.
Okay, great. And I love the, just going back to the glassware and when the serving, it's, thank you for the idea, because it's an amazing way to take any food, right, and make it an experience of eating, is to put something into a beautiful glass or a dish. And it's part of the experience then that brings joy. You know, I love using one of my grandmother's old china teacups, right? I mean, it's forever old, but it brings something else to the tea drinking experience. And that's what you're doing here. It's wonderful to put it into such beautiful glassware and make it so special.
Absolutely. In fact, I love to present it sometimes in little espresso cups. and
Oh,
a little coffee bean on top. It's just, and a little spoon that's sticking out. It's beautiful. At Christmas, you can also put a candy cane that hopefully people won't eat, but it's beautiful over the side. It's a beautiful thing. Yes, I agree with you. I think the visual is so important as well. It has to be appetizing, inviting. And this, I make also like a little trifle. I make a banana bread that's
okay.
vegan. When my kids would come home from college, I would always make them banana bread, and we call it Welcome Home Banana Bread. And I have that Welcome Home Banana Bread on my website. But as I became more and more aware of the wellness of our planet and of our fellow animals, I decided, and one of my daughters is strictly vegan. I thought, well, let me try vegan. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure which one I like better. They're both delicious. The vegan one also doesn't have any added sugar. It's with mineral dates, but again, you don't know they're there. So I love to use that banana bread, the vegan banana, and slice it in little cubes, put them at the bottom, then put a layer of vanilla almond yogurt, and then a layer of my mousse au chocolat, boom, boom, boom. And then at the end, just a few sprinkles of almonds or walnuts. It is so presentable and it's so delicious. And you don't need very much in each because, you know, there's so many layers. So there's so many things to do with this. And I hope you try it.
Yeah, there's so many comments already. What a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Catherine. This has been great. If there are any other questions, please throw them into the chat because we have a couple minutes left. And this has been so enlightening to help provide some ideas for recipes, and then also ideas of ways that people could tweak them in their own kitchen and make them their own.
Empower people to do things that are easy for them. And I will, do I have a couple more minutes?
Of course, yes, please, go ahead.
One thing that, if I could just give you this little trick, it's called the fricassee, and it sounds like a fancy name. The French sound fancy. All it is whatever vegetable you have on hand in the oven, and I'll tell you, except for two ingredients that you must have constant, and I'll tell you which they are. Okay. The result is in the oven, you make it cook bake it for a good hour, maybe even hour and 15 minutes. And the result is this caramelized, glazed beauty of vegetables. So here is the quote unquote trick. And I love this recipe because it's not a recipe. It's just one of those constant that you do, and then you can add whatever vegetable you want. Take a big pan and you put, let's say, a Yukon potato, a sweet potato, turnips, zucchini, and carrot, let's say. And you cut it up and you fill it raw in this big thing, big baking pan. You saute 2 onions, yellow onions I prefer, in olive oil. And there, the olive oil, you have to do a good 1/3 of a cup of olive oil. So don't spare. It's a 1/3 of a cup is not that much for all that there is, but you do need the olive oil, extra virgin. Saute your onions enough that they're translucent and soft, not caramelized yet. Get 2 pints of little cherry tomatoes. Throw all that in that, baking pan with the raw sliced vegetables, roughly sliced, not thinly sliced, because it's going to cook for a long time. Okay. Little pepper. You can use also bay leaves and some fresh thyme, but the inherent sweetness of those tomatoes, which by the end will burst. And if they haven't burst completely, make sure they burst. You cannot push them, because between the sweetness of the tomatoes and the caramelized onion, it will glaze all these vegetables, and it's delicious. And again, whatever you have on hand, vegetables that stay well, like potatoes and things like that, it's delicious. I like to serve over, you can serve it along a chicken or fish. I now have made peace with tofu, and I make a crispy tofu that's just crispy on the outside and almost tastes like mozzarella inside. It's so delicious. And I serve my fricassee on top of that. So that's one of those empowering recipes that I just would love to finish with, to tell you. I have it on my website. It's called Any Veggie Fricassee.
And fricassee, I'm putting it in the chat right now as you're speaking. So any veggie, and then fricassee is Fricasse, correct?
That's it. There's 2 E's at the end, but that won't stop you.
Okay, I'm going to put it in so everyone can look for it.
Good, good, good. And please, if you have any questions, you can comment on Cuisinicity. I also have lots of videos in my beautiful kitchen because this is my partner in crime, this kitchen. And I do a lot of cooking class videos, you know, very informal like this. And feel free, they're free. And if you have questions, comments, subscribe, whatever, I am there for you. You're my guests.